So no hotter team heading into the play-in game tonight here with the Miami Heat and the Sixers than, in fact, the Sixers, who have now just rattled off a whole lot of wins, a whole lot of covers, and the Miami Heat, everyone's waiting for Heat culture. I'm not buying that that's what we're going to see. The second game coming up, the Bulls and the Hawks. Unfortunately, nobody should be allowed to win that game, but somebody will. But let's talk about this Heat and Sixers team here. Who is it, Andy, in this game that you give the edge to? Because the market clearly thinks one of these teams is better than the other.
Yeah, obviously it all comes down to Joel Embiid and what are we going to get from him tonight? I will just start off by saying I don't buy that he's going to be 100% and he's going to be 100% effective. So I'll just cut to the chase. I have Joel Embiid under 47.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Last two games, 52 against Orlando, 56 against Detroit, but I can't see him being close to 100% here in this one. And on top of that, Miami has just done a fantastic job against him. On April 4th, he only played 33 minutes and only had 36 points, rebounds, and assists. Joe, you even go back to last year, the last two times he's played Miami, 29 points, rebounds, and assists, 41 points, rebounds, assists. So he's not getting there. And I know it's playing. I know it's like, well, what are you saving him for? But if he's hobbled, this is just going to be a very, very tall ask for him to play. What do they want to try and get 40 minutes out of him? I'm sure he'll do his best and gut it out, but I just think the combination of how good Bam Adebayo and Miami has been against him, the combination of the injury just leads me to believe he's just not going to get there. It's way too many points, rebounds, and assists. I will say for the game, these are two teams that rank 1 and 2 defensively in the last 10 games. But Joe, come on, let's look at the 76ers have closed the season with Brooklyn, Orlando, Detroit, San Antonio, Memphis. That's a great way to pad those defensive numbers there a little bit. So I know this could be a defensive rock fight. I like the over in this game. I'm literally watching the screens. It just moved up a half point. So maybe somebody else agrees with me. It was 207.5. It's 208. You look at these two teams and they played on April 4th. That game was 109-105. They did have a really low scoring game in March, 98-91. But before that, they played 109-104. And even earlier in the season, they had a game that was 119-113. I just think when it comes down to it, these teams are going to have to try and get some points to outscore the other team, especially in the fourth quarter. If it comes down to a close game, you could end up with free throws and some late points here. So I just think this 208 is a little bit too low. I like the over, but I do like Joel Embiid under his points, rebounds, and assists for tonight.
Rob Veno with Miami. Do they have a little postseason magic in them again? Heat culture coming to town, or should I burn this hat?
I don't want you to burn that hat, Joe. That hat is way too nice to burn. I'll go back to reference the game that Andy just talked about, the most recent one, 109-105. It was Embiid's second game back from injury. We really didn't know what we were going to get out of him at that point. It was a big game for both sides, Miami and Philadelphia. Remember, head coach Eric Spoelstra had been talking about how they wanted to get into the playoff, not be in the play-in. So it was important to them at home that night. Embiid went 33 minutes, scored 29 points. So I think we can safely say that he's probably going to get his unless injury affects him sometime during the game. It's hard to project that, hard to handicap that. So I'll go with the results that we had. For Miami, they had Terry Rozier in the starting lineup last night. It doesn't look like that's going to be the way here tonight. And so maybe a little bit different for them. But Joe, I'm kind of with Andy on the part about this game going over such a low number. That particular game hit 214 with a ton of meaning, a ton of effort, all the healthy bodies on the floor, most all your regulars on the floor. So I could see a repeat of that. The fourth quarter in that game was 22-17, 39-point fourth quarter. Couldn't stop it from getting to 214 and over what's necessary tonight. I think Philly, what's great about these two centers, Joe, Lowry and Adebayo, is that Adebayo's developed that three-point shot now. I think for those playing props that have been betting Adebayo over His number of threes have been cashing tickets on a regular basis for the most part, second half of the season. When you can stretch those guys away from the rim and open up opportunities for everybody else, it just makes life so much easier. I also like the idea about free throws at the end of this game. Probably see a lot of fouls. Good free throw shooters on both sides here. So for me, it came down to which way did I want to play the total. And I have to tell you, the way I found the safest, and it's it goes back a couple of years, but I always find myself on Miami over. Miami's number was 101.5. And I just thought, 101.5 for this team, probably a little bit too low. I think they can get to that point. Now we're looking at, I'm going to try and get us a current right now team total for Miami so we can give an official number here. I'm looking at, still 101.5, Joe. To me, again, too low. I think that he can get to 102. Philadelphia is not a great defensive team, but what helps both of these is the pace, right? We always talk about how slow they are. Still, the efficiency level, I think, will be there. So for me, the way I came out of this was with Miami up and over 101.5 team total.
All right, there you go. We got a team total. We got a prop. We also will have a burned Miami Heat hat, we think, by the end of that when it's all said and done. But the Heat and the Sixers, that will be your first play-in game here tonight, the 7-8 seed. And then, of course, we have the 9-10, a game in which we checked. Andy has made a few phone calls, I believe, Andy, and there is no way they both can't lose, apparently, although that would be fantastic. So tell us tonight with the Bulls and the Atlanta Hawks, how you looking at this game?
Well, with disgust. Combined in these teams, in each of their last 5 games, we have a total of 2 wins. These teams are combined 2-8 coming into this. Just really, really bad. I don't find player props to have a whole lot of value in these play-in games. I was not in play last night with any official plays because anything can happen in these play-in games. Like we saw Clay 0 for 10. I mean, listen, we wouldn't expect a huge game from him, but just weird things can happen. So I caution everyone to just be careful with player props on these games. So the only one that I found that I actually do think has some value here is DeJounte Murray over 2.5 turnovers. A little bit of an obscure market here. It's around the minus 155, and I got to tell you, I love it. These guys are all going to play huge amounts of minutes, so he's going to be out on the floor for a long, extended period of time. And he's been a turnover machine recently. He has gone over in 8 out of his last 9 games. And some of these games, he has 4 and even 5 turnovers. I mean, against Milwaukee, Chicago, and Detroit, each had 5 turnovers. And that leads me into his performance against Chicago. 5 turnovers in that game, 6 in February and December. He had 3 turnovers against Chicago. So he is turnover prone against this team. We got a track record of recently he's been turning the ball over. We'll know he's going to play a ton of minutes, and he's not been that good against Chicago with controlling the ball. So it's a little bit of an obscure one, but I could not get to the window with any points or rebounds or anything like that. So let's take a look at DeJounte Murray as the best prop. In this game, I guess I just look at it and say I don't really know who should be favored, so I'll take the Hawks +3. That's pretty much the only backing. Is I don't think either of these teams should be favored over the other. I think the books are struggling with it as well. It's like, Bulls are at home. Let's make them a favorite. So no opinion on the side. No real strong opinion on the total here. Just give me DeJounte Murray over his turnovers.
All right, there you go. DeJounte Murray it is. Rob, Veno, if 2 NBA teams that suck are in the forest and one falls down, do either of them make a sound? Probably not. But who are you looking at here tonight in this one?
Yes, and if that happens, Joe, do any of us know who really wins the game? I mean, I guess we all just run up and try to cash everything we bet. I tell you, it's well, certainly let's start with Trae Young's return, right, for the Atlanta Hawks. It's extended their rotation, certainly. And for what it's worth, Trae Young had 30 assists in the 3 games that he's come back, 10 assists per game. So he jumped right back into the flow with the Atlanta offense. It was interesting to me to see how he would return because remember, Quinn Snyder had been talking about how great the ball sharing had been with the Hawks and how their offensive production had, the Hawks are an offensive minded team anyway, but in his mind, they were playing even better offense because everybody was touching the basketball. Nobody was, dribbling out the shot clock. So Young comes back and they still scored 114 and 115 in 2 of the 3 games that they played. So along with the 30 assists, I think that we could safely say Atlanta's offense is there. We know they're not a great defensive team. I think the biggest myth in this game is that, somehow we perceive Chicago to be a pretty good defensive team. They're not a good defensive team. The Bulls, for what it's worth, last 15 games, 20th ranked defensive rating in the NBA. Go through their list of games had leading into this, whole bunch of overs, whole lot of points given up. So Atlanta should find a home against this Chicago defense, and vice versa on the other side. Obviously, Chicago has become a pretty good offensive team, running their offense through Vucevic in the middle. So you have to look it over. They bet the over. First half over looks a little low. The Bulls defensively, they've given up 109 or better in 17 of their last 25. That's 68% of the time. They're giving up at least 110, at least 109. In the 3 meetings this season, for those who might want to zero in on a Hawks team total, taking advantage of the Bulls defense, 3 meetings this season, Atlanta scored 113 here just 16 days ago, scored 113 in the other game, scored 126 in the other game beside that. Their team total was sitting at 108.5. Then it was up to 109, I think. So their continuity should mix well against the Chicago defense. I think any way you want to slice it, Joe, I would agree with the first half over. I would agree with a full game over. I would agree probably with Hawks team total over. I think you're going to get a bunch of offense. Last night we got 2 unders in games where we thought we had far better offensive play. Didn't pan out. Here you just got, I think Andy referred to it to start with, 4 teams where I don't know which one. And perhaps the Sixers with a healthy Embiid can push for a title. But in this particular game, I could see any type of overplay being really good in this spot. Billy Donovan, just an added point here. Billy Donovan kind of wanted to have 2 feet out the door on his way to Kentucky. Didn't happen. I don't know what the interest level really is here from that head coach. I think we probably get an up and over spot here. Any way you want to play it, I think is fine. For me, I'll leave you with this. I think for me, the best way to go would be Hawks team total over that 109.
Just so we're clear, so they have to play this game, right? That's that right there, Andy. You got the word. They have to play this game. Unfortunately,
but we don't have to watch it. We do not have to watch it.
You damn straight. But I'm with you there, Veno. I definitely think team total could very well be the way to look there. Andy Lang, Rob Veno, locked and loaded. Best bets are available at WagerTalk.com. And they're not the only ones that have an opinion on the game here tonight. Go ahead, click on the video on your screen right now and hear what other WagerTalk handicappers have to say about the play-in games coming up here tonight.